Hi, my name's Ellen Mann. I'm a home stager on Vancouver Island. I have a company called Chrysalis Creative Home Staging, and we work in the mid-island area of Vancouver Island, BC, Canada. And I also am a member of the board of directors for the Real Estate Staging Association, which is a North American association for home stagers. One of the people at HQ, the wonderful Gina Vieira, sent me an article from a BC news service that is discussing virtual staging, and I thought that I would share the article with you. And the reason for doing that is pretty simple. If you saw the headline to this article, it might tell you one thing, but if you read the whole article, the message that it's giving you is a little bit different. So I thought I'd go through it and share some of my thoughts as I read. So I'll just dive right in. The headline for the article says, "A BC man who backed out on a deal to buy a house after he realized online photos of it were edited and virtually staged has been ordered to pay a penalty for rescinding the contract." So if all you read was that headline, it might lead you to believe that the rest of the article is going to indicate that virtually staging list photos is fine, and that anybody who kind of questions that is going to have to pay a penalty if they've chosen to buy a house based on those photos. Braden Messenger entered into a $490,000 contract of purchase and sale for a property being sold by Mary Bell in 2023, according to a decision from the Civil Resolution Tribunal on the dispute over the $1,225 fee. It is undisputed that Mr. Messenger did not view the property before agreeing to the CPS, which is that contract of purchase and sale. Tribunal member Allison Wake wrote. So the guy bought the property based on the listing and the list photos without seeing it in person. After seeing the property, Messenger notified Bell that he was rescinding the contract. He argued he should not have to pay the fee Bell was claiming because the property was misrepresented. Mr. Messenger says before he made the offer that formed the basis for the CPS, Ms. Bell or her agent added photographs to the property's online listing that had been virtually staged and significantly altered without including a disclaimer or a notation, the decision said. So a lot of the time in BC, when a property has been virtually staged by an agent, they will say that the photos were virtually staged. But in this case, it sounds like that disclaimer wasn't given. So Mr. Messenger says these photographs constitute a misrepresentation, and so the CPS, that contract for purchase and sale, is void. Bell did not dispute the photos were edited, and evidence reviewed by the tribunal showed the listing photos were significantly altered by being virtually staged. In one instance, according to the decision, a large area of peeling paint had been edited out of a photo of a bedroom. So not only did they put furniture into this house, they also glossed over some damage. However, the issue of whether the property was misrepresented was found to be irrelevant to the question of whether Messenger was required to pay the fee. So what this is saying is that even though they did that, they went and fixed damage on a wall, the decision was made not based on those photos and his contention. Now, why is that? It's because Messenger signed a notice of rescission exercising his right to terminate the contract under a particular section of BC's Property Law Act. This, Bell argued, was not his only option in this situation. Mr. Messenger could have let his offer lapse by not removing the subjects to it with no penalty, the decision said. Contracts can be canceled for a material representation by the other party, the tribunal noted, but the document Messenger signed explicitly agreed to a penalty equivalent to 0.25% of the property's sale price an amount mandated by BC's home buyer rescission period regulation. So in BC, there is a period of time where a buyer can walk away from a deal. It's called a rescission period. And according to this, it sounds like Mr. Messenger could have just allowed that to lapse, but instead he chose to bring up that the photos misrepresented the property. So the final paragraph is where the meat really lies. I find that I do not need to determine whether Ms. Bell materially misrepresented the property's condition because Mr. Messenger agreed to pay the rescission in any event, Wake wrote. So basically, he didn't read the contract completely. He could have allowed it to lapse, but instead he chose to walk away based on the misrepresentation of the property. But they found that that was irrelevant to the decision because he'd signed something that said he had to pay no matter what. In addition to the fee, Messenger was ordered to pay Bell $73.84 in prejudgment and $125 in tribunal fees. So in conclusion, this basically doesn't say that it's okay to misrepresent a property, and it doesn't say that it's okay to virtually stage and not disclose that. What it says is that the potential purchaser had signed an agreement stating that he would pay that rescission fee no matter what. That's what it sounds like to me. So if you just read the headline, I think you wouldn't have seen that the decision wasn't saying that it's okay. Those are my thoughts on this. I think it's really important to stay up to date on what's happening in our industry. And I'd like to point out that I got this article, even though it is a BC-based article, I hadn't seen it in the paper, and it was sent to me by Gina. So the Real Estate Staging Association really does help me keep up on top of what's happening in my industry. And I would like to say that, the bottom line is this. I deal with properties that have been previously virtually staged fairly often. When it's ineffective, often home sellers will come and have a property staged by a physical stager. The other thing I'd like to say is that those of us who are professionally trained and who belong to the Real Estate Staging Association, we are required to sign basically a code of ethics when we join. And that code of ethics says that somebody who's doing physical staging and belongs to the association, we can't just hang a picture over a bunch of wall damage. We can't put a rug over top of a big hole in the floor. We are not allowed to use our staging to hide defects in the home. And it sounds to me like what was done on this listing would have contravened our code of ethics. So when you belong to the Real Estate Staging Association, it means that you have to abide by a higher standard than you may do if you're not trained that these things aren't okay to do. But I thought I would just share my thoughts on this article, and you might have other thoughts, but this is what my opinion of what that article was. And I'm very grateful to Gina for sending me the article so that I could speak to it. Thanks.